Preparations for resumption of high-speed rail service continue, but still no word on ticketing arrangements. Biden vows to cooperate with investigation after classified documents were found in the office of a think tank office he once used. And in Ukraine, Russian troops said to have seized a town in the east. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. The MTR has yet to announce the ticketing arrangements for the initial stage of the resumption of high-speed rail service between Hong Kong and the mainland. It's expected that the service will resume as early as Sunday.
The Hong Kong section of the high-speed rail link is expected to come back to service soon, and hundreds of police and government officers performed drills this morning at the West Kowloon station. There were simulations of travellers returning. Workers at the ticket office were also getting ready. Lawmaker Michael Tien believes passengers will no longer need an actual ticket to take the trains. He said passengers would only need to fill in data online prior to their journey and use their home return permit to board the train. Tien also revealed that from Sunday onwards, there will be trains operating between West Kowloon Station and the newly opened Guangzhou East Railway Station. Guangzhou East Station is located in Tianhe District, the city centre of the provincial capital of Guangdong. In the past, Hong Kong residents could only travel to Guangzhou's business hub by taking through trains from Hong Kong. From there, passengers can travel to Meizhou, Fuzhou, Beijing and Shanghai, but not via high-speed trains. Those who wish to travel to Beijing, Shanghai, Sichuan, Hubei and Henan via the high-speed rail network will have to take trains from Guangzhou South Railway Station. The SAR government noted the initial resumption of service on the high-speed railway's Hong Kong section will only include short-haul trips to Shenzhen and Guangzhou. That prompted calls for long-haul trips to resume before the Lunar New Year, as some Hong Kong residents may wish to see their families in locations such as Fujian, Wuhan and Guangxi.
The city's daily COVID tally remained below 10,000 today. Among the 9,279 new infections, 262 were imported. 14 care homes for the elderly and the disabled were infected. More than 600 schools reported positive cases. 67 more patients died, bringing the death toll in the current pandemic wave to 12,335. In the mainland, various areas, including Jiangsu province, Beijing and Shenzhen, have declared that coronavirus infections have already peaked and that fever clinic patients are on the decline. According to government surveys, the infection rate has reached 90% in Henan province and 80% in Sichuan province. Mayor of Beijing, Yin Yong, noted that the residents of the national capital have already built up a new level of immunity to the virus, adding that Beijing has already returned to normalcy. Meanwhile, the countryside remains as the primary focus for mainland authorities for pandemic control. The government earlier provided 1.17 million oximeters for those living in the countryside. Mainland authorities have hit back at recent entry curbs various countries have imposed on travelers from China. Among Beijing's measures are the suspension of the issuance of port visas and the visa-free transit policy for South Korean and Japanese travelers. Still, the Foreign Ministry said the frequency of passenger flights between some Southeast Asian nations and the mainland will be increased. Christy Khan reports.
China's National Immigration Administration announced that the issuance of port visas and the visa-free transit policy for citizens from South Korea and Japan will be suspended from today. This came shortly after the Chinese authorities said they have stopped issuing short-term visas for South Korean and Japanese visitors yesterday. And the timeline and conditions for the resumption of the visa issuance is not clear. Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno criticized the move and said Japanese authorities have requested that their Chinese counterparts scrap the restrictions. South Korean Foreign Minister Park Jin said it's significantly regrettable that China has made the move. He added that the South Korean authorities will closely monitor the situation before determining when to drop the existing curbs. In Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said the entry restrictions on travelers from China imposed by different countries were discriminatory measures. He added that China has to take reciprocal responses against the discriminatory measures taken by these countries. Despite the COVID risks, some countries in Southeast Asia, such as Thailand and Indonesia, have welcomed the return of Chinese tourists. More direct flights between China and Thailand will resume gradually. Currently, there's only one direct flight from Chiang Mai from China every day, and 3 direct flights are to Phuket. Christy Khan, TVB News.
U.S. President Joe Biden said Tuesday he was surprised to learn that classified documents were found in a think tank office he once used. He said he and his team are cooperating fully with the review into what happened. Former President Donald Trump weighed in on social media Monday, asking when the FBI was going to raid the many homes of Joe Biden. The FBI conducted a raid on Trump's home in Florida last year and found 320 classified documents. Tracy Furness has more.
U.S. President Joe Biden told reporters at a joint news conference while in Mexico City with the leaders of Mexico and Canada that he takes classified documents seriously. He said he did not know what was in the documents.
People know I take classified documents and classified information seriously. When my lawyers were clearing out my office at the University of Pennsylvania, they set up an office for me, secure office in the Capitol. When for 4 years after being vice president, I was a professor at Penn. They found some documents in a box, a locked cabinet, or at least a closet. And as soon as they did, they realized there were several classified documents in that box. Immediately called the archives, turned them over to the archives.
According to Biden's special counsel, fewer than a dozen classified documents were found on November 2nd last year in a locked closet of an office he used from 2017 until he launched his 2020 presidential campaign in 2019. It didn't take long for former President Donald Trump to chime in, asking on social media why the FBI was not raiding Joe Biden's many homes, even the White House. This after his home, Mar-a-Lago in Florida, was raided last year by the FBI, who found thousands of official documents, of which more than 300 were marked classified.
When the former president had 320 documents found at his personal residence, they said that, quote, that will not be a priority. What President Biden did was disclose this to the archives, let law enforcement know.
It certainly makes a difference, just generally speaking, when somebody comes to the government and says, I found this stuff and here it is, versus the government feeling that it's got to go route it out.
This revelation has come to light as the Republican Party has taken control of the House of Representatives and are promising to launch widespread investigations into Biden's administration. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
In Mexico, the leaders of Mexico, Canada and the United States held their North American Leaders Summit Tuesday, pledging to promote prosperity for people throughout the hemisphere while taking up issues from border security to climate and trade. U.S. President Joe Biden, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador found themselves at odds as they struggle to handle an influx of migrants and discuss how to crack down on smugglers who profit from illegal immigration. Trudeau and López Obrador had concerns about Biden's efforts to boost domestic manufacturing. They are worried that U.S. neighbors will be left behind. The three leaders connected, however, over a stronger North America on energy, semiconductors, climate, and a pledge to cut methane emissions. France has unveiled a contentious pension overhaul aimed at raising the retirement age from 62 to 64 by 2030. Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne said the minimum retirement age to be entitled to a full pension will be gradually increased by 3 months every year starting this year, in line with a long-standing pledge by President Emmanuel Macron. In addition, people will need to have worked for 43 years to get a full pension starting from 2027. The country's 8 main labor unions did not take the announcement well, saying there would be a national day of strikes and protests on January 19th. The overhaul must now be approved by Parliament, where Macron's centrist alliance lost its majority last year. He hopes to align with Conservative Republicans to pass the measure. If not, it could be forced through without a vote using special powers. Welcome back to TVB News. 2 doctors have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. Sources say the pair were involved in a prescription mistake that's suspected to have led to the acute liver failure and subsequent death of a patient in 2017. Jackie Lin with more.
It's understood the 2 arrested doctors are Lam Chi Kwan and Chan Seo Kim from United Christian Hospital. They were involved in the high-profile medical blunder in 2017, which allegedly resulted in the death of a 44-year-old mother of 2, Tang Kwai Si. In a statement, police said the 2 doctors, aged 45 and 50 respectively, were arrested on Monday after the force consulted legal opinions. The 2 doctors allegedly treated a female patient in January and February 2017. It's understood at the time the 2 doctors failed to notice Tang Kwai Si had hepatitis B and hence failed to prescribe antiviral drugs to Tang. They also gave the Hep B carrier high doses of steroids in the previous treatment of her kidney problems. Tang later had acute liver failure. After being transferred to another hospital later, Tang had to receive 2 liver transplants to stay alive before eventually succumbing to liver failure in late August 2017. The 2 doctors will appear at Eastern Magistrates Court on the 16th of January. In 2017, then United Christian Hospital Chief Executive Choi Tak-yi apologized for the tragedy.
I'd
rather the hospital return a healthy mother back to me, Tang's daughter said. The Medical Council of Hong Kong later found the 2 doctors guilty of professional misconduct over the case and suspended their license for up to 5 months. Tim Pang, veteran patients' rights advocate, said the criminal charges allowed the deceased and her family to seek justice over the fatal medical blunder. Medical sector lawmaker David Lam, meanwhile, worried the manslaughter charges could dampen public doctors' already lackluster morale.
In the hospital authority, the amount of work is so overwhelming that we do not have enough time for each and every patient. If we tried our best within the time limit and under the tremendous pressure, and eventually we are brought to a criminal court and charged for a serious offense that is going to cause a lot of concerns and worries among doctors.
Similar concerns from Hong Kong patients' voices. Its chairman Alex Lam said more public hospital doctors might switch to private practice because the criminal risks they bear are disproportionate to the pay. The coroner's inquest into Tang's death will begin on February 27th. The inquiry is expected to take 15 days. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
A research team at the University of Hong Kong's Faculty of Medicine has discovered a new treatment approach for liver cancer. The team recruited 33 liver cancer patients with large tumors, which make them unable to have curative treatment, to undergo a new tri-modality therapy. The new approach combines 3 treatment modalities, including radiation, chemotherapy, and immunotherapy, to reduce the size of the tumors and increase the patient's chance of survival. The 3-year study shows that 18, or nearly half, of the patients became suitable for curative surgery after the treatment. The research team said the treatment is already available at public hospitals. Also, the team hopes the therapy fee, which costs more than $500,000 for a 6-month treatment, will be covered by the hospital authority so as to alleviate the patient's financial burden.
Well, the conventional method, the outcome is very disappointing. So only about 10% of these patients can achieve cure. And we are not happy with the results. And we try to improve the successful rate. And that's why we have the idea of combining the 3 treatment modalities. After 6 months, when the entire treatment course is completed, if the patients can achieve a complete response, they don't need further systemic treatment.
The police have arrested 16 men on suspicion of participating in illegal racing. Authorities seized 13 vehicles, including 8 sports cars and 5 motorcycles. The police believe that the vehicles were involved in a number of illegal racing cases along Route Twisk between Campton and Tai Mo Shan over the final months of last year. Early on Tuesday morning, officers arrested 16 individuals aged between 23 and 44 on suspicion of illegal racing, abetting others to race and driving without third-party insurance. The arrestees reportedly included business people, designers and technicians. 13 of the suspects appeared in court this afternoon. Elsewhere, a Brazilian Supreme Court judge has ordered the arrest of the capital's most recent public security chief after supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro led a rampage through government buildings on Sunday. Daniel Rell tells us more.
Justice Alexandre de Moraes ordered the arrest of Anderson Torres, who was former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro's justice minister before taking over this month as the public security chief for the capital, Brasilia. The arrest order comes after thousands of pro-Bolsonaro protesters vandalized the Supreme Court, Congress and presidential offices on Sunday. Torres, who was removed from office on Sunday, was not in the city when the riots occurred, having flown to Florida earlier this month. In a post on Twitter on Tuesday, he said he would return to Brazil from Orlando, where he was taking a holiday with his family, and turn himself in to the authorities. Moraes also requested the arrest of Fabio Augusto Vieira, the head of Brazilia's military police, one of a number of officials responsible for protecting the key Brasilia government buildings. In the arrest warrant, Moraes cited their failure to ensure proper security forces were in place. He also cited their authorization of the entrance into the city of more than 100 buses with Bolsonaro supporters on board. That's in addition to their failure to close down a camp at which the former president's loyalists had been gathering for months. Police questioned some 1,000 protesters in Brasilia on Tuesday, as around 200 other detained demonstrators are awaiting charges in a penal facility for their role in Sunday's violence. As for former President Bolsonaro, who flew to Florida 48 hours before his term ended, he was released from an Orlando hospital where he had been admitted on Monday. He was seen re-entering a residence late on Tuesday, where he has been staying for most of his Florida trip. Bolsonaro told CNN Brazil he may cut his stay there short due to his medical issues and return to his country before the end of the month. The US State Department commented on whether Bolsonaro could potentially be deported without his diplomatic status.
Leaving individuals aside, and generally speaking, if someone entered the United States on an A visa, which is essentially a diplomatic visa for foreign diplomats or heads of state, an A visa holder, if an A visa holder is no longer engaged in official business on behalf of their government, it is incumbent on that visa holder to depart the U.S. or to request a change to another immigration status within 30 days.
Daniel Rell, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for joining us.